back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Great draft debate episode. The Viking Update show starring Tim Yotter, publisher of VikingUpdate.com. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune. Thanks to our sponsors, Twill and the Edina Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, and Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. That's Hoaglund. So let's debate what the Vikings should do with this draft. And the crux of these debates is almost always, do you draft what you need or do you draft the best player available? Before we even get to specifics, Tim, where do you fall in that debate?
Well, I think it depends on how desperate you are at your need. I get it when teams sort of force a quarterback early when they have a real big need at quarterback. They don't have a veteran that they can count on, and they feel like they have a team that could at least compete in a year or two. But I actually like the way that the Vikings do it, which is to have, they do it by groups. So basically you could have 5 players that are all given the same number grade, and they go to decimal points on this stuff. And you cannot have 2 players at the same position within that grouping. And it doesn't mean that you have, 13 different positions all in that group. But if you have, for instance, what the Vikings needs, if you have a tight end, an offensive lineman, and a defensive tackle that you have come to the conclusion that they are all almost the exact same player, have the exact same potential to them in their careers, then that gives you the option to draft any one of those positions. And in that case, I think if you do believe that, each one of those players could be a Pro Bowl player in a year, well, then you just take whichever need is greatest. And in this case, I would say probably offensive line. But you also have to mix in how deep is the draft at those different positions. So, in this draft, if you look at it and say, okay, there are 2 really good first-round tight ends. But after that, we're not sure if we're going to get a guy that can be a starter in a year. But at offensive line and defensive tackle, maybe we can find a starter in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. Then I think you do go with a tight end. So I think it's going to be very fascinating how this all plays out. And part of it also depends, obviously, on what happens in the 17 picks before the Vikings are on the board.
Right. The easy and ideal scenario is something like Jonah Williams falls to 18. They take the offensive lineman they need at a position where they feel like they're getting good value. But if that doesn't happen, that's where this gets fascinating. That's why I'm really interested in the tight end position. You have Rudolph toward the end of his career. You don't have a ton of pass receiving depth at that position. It's a position that good coaches can use to great advantage, and it can help your offensive line if the guy can also block. So let's start with tight ends. Who would you like to see if the Vikings went tight end? Would that be a good idea? And who would you like to see them pick?
Well, this to me is the most intriguing position for the Vikings because, if Kyle Rudolph weren't such a nice guy, he might not talk to you ever again after you saying he's at the end of his career. He will take exception to that.
Oh, did I say career? I meant contract.
Okay, yes.
He's at the end of his contract. I actually don't think the thing about Kyle is he's not a burner. He's not a pure speed guy. So I actually don't think it's at the end of his career. I don't think he's going to fall off the table anytime soon. So I misspoke. End of his contract, not the end of his career.
And either way, though, I do think it is really intriguing because if he is in the final year of his contract and he has been asked if, he's willing to restructure his contract and add years to it, drop this year's salary cap number. And he says, yes, absolutely. And he wants to do what is going to help the team out. And I think players that are at their point in their careers where he is. He will turn 30 during the season. I think they are much more willing to say, I want to win a championship. And if I can help the team do that by lowering a salary cap number, and in his case, maybe you add 2 or 3 years to that contract, it allows him to stay in the league and stay on a team he's familiar with and likes. So I'm intrigued by that, and also the fact that the Vikings are going to have to make some sort of move in order to allow them to sign their draft picks. So all of that kind of flows together. But if you get down to the number 18 pick where the Vikings are in the first round, and no tight ends have been selected yet, to me, TJ Hawkinson is the easy pick. I have watched 4 or 5 games of Hawkinson and Noah Fant, and both of them are quality, I think, first-round tight ends. They both bring a lot to the table, fairly good blockers, good in the receiving game. To me, the difference is Fant is faster, and he's got quicker feet, but Hawkinson, I think, has better hands. Fant has a tendency to drop some passes he should make, even though he can make the difficult catches as well. Hawkinson is really good in contested catches. I think he is able to find seams in the defense a little bit better than Fant can. And to me, one of the separators is both of them are decent blockers, but in different ways. Hawkinson, to me, looks like he is better when they're running zone schemes and cutting down defenders with sort of like a chop block type of thing, but a cut block, I should say. And so with the Vikings scheme, I think Hawkinson makes more sense than Fant just because of the pure run blocking skills and being able to move very well laterally and cut block guys. Fant is, I think, a little bit better of a power drive blocker, but not quite as good out in space blocking. So that's one of the separators for me between those two.
I'm not sure either of them get to 18. What do you think?
I think Fant for sure does.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. To me, the really curious thing is why did he lose playing time to Hawkinson last year? And then when you listen to the way that each of those guys talked about the coaching staff at the NFL scouting combine, Hawkinson got choked up. You could tell he was very close with the Ferences and, really gravitated to the coaching. Fant, he certainly didn't insult the coaching staff. He kind of gave a placating compliment, like, everything's good with the coaching staff. I'll be there. It's all good. But it makes me really curious why Fant, who was very productive in 2017, lost playing time, to Hawkinson, and for sure lost targets and yardage to him. So I think Hawkinson is a little bit safer of a pick. I think Fant is going to be a very good tight end, but I'm not sure Hawkinson's going to make it to them at 18. I would guess that Fant would. The interesting thing, though, too, is that when you look at the Vikings draft history, they have never taken a tight end in the first round. So this would be a first for the franchise if they do it here. And
if Fant goes before the Vikings, the speculation I've seen is that he ends up at the Packers, which would be interesting in and of itself.
Yep. Yeah. The Packers, I think, are going to run a very similar blocking system as the Vikings do. So if either of those teams take him, it's going to be really interesting to see how he reacts to getting out blocking in space versus what Hawkinson's able to do.
Thanks to Twill and the down in Galleria, I've been traveling like crazy lately. Went from, and been working like crazy. Final Four, Masters, just went on a quick vacation to San Diego. So I wore my nicer Twill clothes when I was working. I wore my golf stuff and casual stuff when I was vacationing or walking around at Augusta National. Check it out. They have pretty much everything you need.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
All right, let's get something maybe a little more pertinent. The top tackles.
Yeah, like the tight ends, I've spent a lot of time watching game film of these guys from last year, certainly, and in some cases back to 2017. To me, the top three are Jonah Williams, Andre Dillard, and Jawaan Taylor. They are all a little bit different in what they could bring to a team. Jonah Williams, to me, is the safe pick. I think he's going to be a very good pro, maybe a Pro Bowl guy in a few years. He just seems like a guy that is doing everything right and rarely makes mistakes. Not necessarily dominating, but when you have a guy that's gone up against the best of the best, playing for Alabama, he's going against super competition almost every week, especially, mid to late season for those guys. So I think he's the most tested and the safest pick that they can make. And I think, he might be a right tackle. He could probably play left tackle as well, and the possibility to slide inside to guard if needed. Dillard, to me, is the most athletic. He showed that at the combine, and it shows up on tape. I think he's got the quickest feet, the best pass protector of the three, but did very little run blocking that would at least translate to the pro level. So, you would have some questions there, but to me, if his athleticism in pass protection and the quick feet that he has, if that translates well to a zone blocking scheme, then he might have the highest upside of all of them. Jawaan Taylor, I think he is going to be a good either right tackle or guard in the NFL. I'm not 100% sure that he really fits the Viking scheme because he is a squattier, thicker guy, and I'm not sure he is going to be great getting out in space, trying to cut block, create seams, get angles on blockers or on defenders out in space. So, in my mind, I think the Vikings kind of have to go with a safe pick if available, a guy that they feel can step in right away, the most polished of the three, Jonah Williams. But if he's gone, I think that Andre Dillard is the better option for them versus Jawaan Taylor, unless they want to have Taylor play guard or potentially right tackle, and you move Riley Reif into guard, and then you move Brian O'Neill over to left tackle. So all of that is, they really do have just a ton of options with what they can do on their offensive line.
What are the odds one of those three is there at 18?
I think there's a good chance that one of the three is there. I think the least likely is probably Jonah Williams. Jawaan Taylor early on in the draft process was the guy that I saw at the top of the offensive tackles. But I think because he was on the right side last year and because he's a stronger guy, maybe not quite as athletic, I think that's dropped his stock a bit compared to the others. And as people catch up on what Andre Dillard can do, I think there's more to like there, but you're also projecting a little bit more there. So I do think that one of the three should be available. I'm a little hesitant to say if Jonah Williams will be one of those three, though.
Fixologyrepair.com, third floor of the Mall of America, downtown in the Skyway, right in the Crown Bank building, right across from Dunn Brothers and Taco John's. They can help you with any of your repair needs, watches, tablets, phones, whatever. You can also buy really cool watches and accessories. I stop by there all the time. You should too.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition.